The first time I saw him, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, alive. It was a Tuesday afternoon, when I stepped into the gym for the first time in months. The place smelled of sweat and determination, the rhythmic clanking of weights filling the air. I adjusted the straps of my sports bra, suddenly aware of how out of place I felt. Then I saw him. Dante Carter. Towering over everyone, his dark skin glistened under the fluorescent lights. Muscles rippled as he demonstrated a squat to a younger client, his voice deep and steady. Confidence radiated from him. He was the kind of man who knew exactly what he was doing, and exactly what he wanted. And for the first time in a long time, I wished someone would look at me like that. I wasn't supposed to feel this way. I was married. 10 years with Mark, a man who had once been my everything. We had built a life together, a beautiful home, stability, comfort. But passion? That had faded years ago. At first, I ignored the signs. The late nights at work, the quick pecks on the cheek instead of real kisses, the way he'd roll away from me in bed, uninterested. I told myself it was normal, that marriages go through phases. But months turned into years. And soon, I stopped trying. I looked at myself in the mirror one day and realized I wasn't the same woman Mark had married. My once toned body had softened, my eyes looked tired, my confidence had disappeared. So, I joined the gym. Not just for him, but for me. I wanted to feel wanted again. Dante caught my eye as I struggled with a treadmill setting, pressing buttons that made no sense. Before I could embarrass myself further, he appeared beside me, flashing a grin that made my stomach tighten. First time here. His voice was smooth, almost teasing. I let out a nervous laugh. Is it that obvious? A little, he admitted, his eyes scanning me, not in a judgmental way, but like he was genuinely curious. You need help with that? I nodded, watching as he effortlessly adjusted the settings, his fingers brushing against mine briefly. The touch was innocent, but my body reacted instantly. I shouldn't be feeling this way. You should try weight training too, he suggested. Cardio's good, but strength training will change your body faster. I swallowed, suddenly aware of how close he was. I wouldn't even know where to start. Good thing I'm a trainer, then, he said with a wink. I do private sessions. His words hung in the air, heavy with a meaning I wasn't ready to acknowledge. I told myself to allow it continue. That Dante was just a friendly trainer. But every time I saw him, my heart raced in a way it hadn't in years. I started dressing differently for the gym, tighter leggings, sports bras that showed just a little more. And every time Dante corrected my posture, or placed his hands on my waist to guide me through a move, I felt it. The pull. The craving for something more. I knew I was standing on the edge of something dangerous. And I wasn't sure I wanted to step back. I told myself it was just a crush. Nothing serious. A silly little spark that would fade if I ignored it long enough. But I didn't ignore it. I fed it. Every time I stepped into the gym, I found myself searching for Dante. Some days, he'd be training another client, his deep voice carrying across the room as he demonstrated proper form. Other times, I'd catch him watching me, his gaze lingering just a second longer than necessary. It was harmless. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. Until the day it wasn't. I hadn't planned to book a private training session with Dante. But when he offered, standing so close I could smell his cologne, his dark eyes locked onto mine, I didn't say no. Come in early tomorrow, he said after one of my workouts, his voice low. Before the gym gets busy. I'll show you how to really train. I should have declined. I should have thought about Mark. About my vows. Instead, I nodded. Okay. The next morning, I arrived before sunrise. The gym was practically empty, just a few dedicated lifters in the far corner, lost in their own routines. Dante was already waiting for me, dressed in a fitted black tank top that showed off every defined muscle. Ready? He asked, flashing that familiar grin. I wasn't sure if he meant for the workout or something else entirely. The session started normally enough. Dante guided me through a series of exercises, his hands adjusting my form, his voice steady and patient. But as the minutes passed, the space between us seemed to shrink. Keep your back straight, he murmured, stepping behind me as I struggled with a deadlift. His hand slid to my waist, his grip firm. Engage your core. I tried to focus, but my heart was pounding too hard. His touch was electric, sending heat through my skin. I swallowed, trying to steady my breathing, but the moment stretched between us, charged and undeniable. I turned my head slightly, my lips dangerously close to his jawline. He didn't move away. Neither did I. Emily, he said, my name like a warning. I should have stopped. I should have laughed it off, stepped back, created distance. Instead, I looked up at him. Dante. That was all it took. The next few seconds felt like slow motion. His hand brushed over mine, his fingers lacing through my own. My breath hitched as he leaned in, his lips ghosting over my ear. You feel it too, don't you? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because the moment his lips touched mine, I knew there was no going back. It was reckless. Dangerous. And I wanted more. Guilt is a strange thing. It doesn't hit you all at once. It creeps in slowly, wrapping around you like a vine, tightening its grip until you can't breathe. I told myself that morning with Dante was a mistake. That it wouldn't happen again. But it did. Again and again. Living a double life, I became addicted to the way Dante made me feel. Desired, alive, wanted. Every touch, every stolen moment in the gym's back office, every whispered promise fed a hunger I hadn't realized was consuming me. At home, I was still Mark's wife. I made dinner, smiled at the right moments, played the role I had mastered for 10 years. But I felt like a stranger in my own home. Mark barely noticed. He was still buried in work, still distant. If he saw the changes in me, the way my body had toned, the way my confidence had returned, he didn't mention it. And maybe that was what hurt the most. You're glowing, Lisa said one afternoon over coffee. She was my best friend, the one person who could read me like an open book. I forced a smile. It's the workouts. She arched a brow. Or the trainer. My stomach flipped. What? Lisa leaned in, lowering her voice. Emily, I've known you for years. Something's different. And don't tell me it's just the gym. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding. I wanted to lie, to brush it off, but my silence spoke louder than words. Her expression softened. What are you doing? I looked away, ashamed. I don't know. I thought I was careful. I thought I had everything under control. Until the night Mark came home early. I was in the bathroom, texting Dante, my fingers trembling as I typed out words I shouldn't be saying. I didn't hear Mark come in. I didn't see him standing in the doorway until it was too late. Who are you texting? His voice was calm, too calm. Panic shot through me. I locked my phone and turned, forcing a smile. Just Lisa. His eyes darkened. Show me. I hesitated. And that was all he needed. Emily, he said slowly, his voice thick with something I had never heard before, pain. Who is he? I couldn't lie. Not anymore. Tears burned my eyes as I whispered, his name is Dante. Mark didn't yell. He didn't throw things or demand details. He just stood there, staring at me like he didn't recognize me anymore. And in that moment, I realized I had broken something that could never be fixed. That night, he packed a bag. The silence in our house was deafening. I reached for my phone, my fingers hovering over Dante's number. But I didn't call. Because no matter how much I had wanted him, no matter how alive he made me feel, I had lost something far greater. And I had no one to blame but myself.